So one of the biggest storylines this entire offseason in college football has been about what? Think about it. Transferring quarterbacks. And it remains the case, and I'm starting to get a little the whole thing is starting to feel fishy to me. Pete Mundo, Heartland College Sports Weekly, part of heartlandcollegesports.com. Thanks, as always, for being a part of the show. We're your Big 12 independent digital media outlet. So you got a lot of big names transferring, right? You got Tate Martell going to Miami, the Ohio State kid. Here in the Big 12, Austin Kendall, after a little bit of a hoopla, goes from Oklahoma to West Virginia. Justin Fields going from Georgia to Ohio State. That's what might have caused Martell to leave Ohio State and go to Miami, right? So now the big thing is, can these guys play right away? You know, you have this transfer portal. You have guys like Shea Patterson going from Ole Miss to Michigan. He hires a lawyer. He gets to play right away. How is this going to work? Well, there was one thing that happened here, and I'm going to read you the statute that came through last April. The Division I Council quietly issued a semi-related modification under which transfers can receive legislative relief from having to sit out a year. The key line here, per Stuart Mandel of The Athletic, is if the transfer is due to documented mitigating circumstances that are outside the student-athlete's control and directly impact the health, safety, and well-being of the student-athlete, then they can play right away. That is something that was passed this past April and is something that a guy like Tate Martell is apparently trying to use right away. And what he is saying is that, well, Urban Meyer retired, so that's why I'm leaving, and that's why I should be able to play right away. You know, does that pass the smell test? If every time a coach retires or leaves, you could have a free-for-all of transfers, you know, I want the student-athlete to be empowered. I want the student-athlete to be emboldened. I want him to feel like, you know what, ultimately, this is my future. If I want to go, I should be able to go. I'm all for that. But then it also crosses a line of, okay, are you going to have basically chaos every time a coach leaves a program where the entire program could be upended? Shea Patterson's attorney was a guy named Thomas Mars. That's the same attorney that Justin Fields is using. Now, what Justin Fields is saying as he goes from Georgia to Ohio State, he's using the story from last September in which a member of the Georgia baseball team loudly referred to Fields by a racist slur. And don't get me wrong, that is disgusting, disgraceful, despicable. Nobody should have to deal with that at any point in time. I'm not defending that at all. And I hope I make that very clear. But let me add to the conversation as well. His sister enrolled at Georgia to play softball. If you're going to tell me that this is a mitigating circumstance outside the student-athlete's control and impacting the health and safety and well-being, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not buying it. And I'm not buying it to be a jerk or anything like that, or a douche or anything. I'm not trying to stop Justin Fields. You know, if he wants to transfer, more power to him. But to say you should play right away and use that as your circumstance, it just feels fishy to me. And Thomas Mars, his attorney, by the way, who's paying for all these attorneys? All right. I mean, we got a booster at Ohio State footing the bill here for this. I don't know. This is starting to get a little shaky to me, a little snaky as well. Shaky and snaky for that matter. You know, Austin Kendall going to West Virginia, he graduated. So that's a totally different animal, totally different beast. But I'm telling you, every year you're going to have this happening. And it's become to the point where, you know, the Big 12, and frankly, any school for that matter, any program, you don't have to hit on the high school quarterback. It's weird to say, but with the way that these 4- and 5-star guys are transferring just on a whim, it's like, all right, so OU gets Spencer Rattler, 5-star guy, top quarterback in the country, commits to OU in the class of 2019. That's awesome. But if you're an OU fan, are you really concerned that if Rattler doesn't work out, you know, you're going to have a tough time finding a quarterback? You shouldn't worry about it. Lincoln Riley's gotten 3 transfers in a row. He's won 2 Heismans the past couple of years with Mayfield. And, of course, this past year with Murray, he might do it again with Jalen Hurts. I mean, who the heck knows? It's crazy when you think about it. So I'm not overly concerned about that. And you think about Texas. I mean, Texas stunk for a decade, at least by Texas standards. And they stunk for a decade because they couldn't find a darn quarterback. God bless David Ash. But when that guy was the best quarterback you had for nearly a 10-year window and you're Texas, that's a problem. But with this new transfer portal and, quarterbacks turning over, I think I saw like 50% of 4- and 5-star quarterbacks are essentially deciding to transfer. And that's a massive number when you put it into perspective. If that is accurate, then, if you're Texas, you're Oklahoma. But more importantly, if you're not a blue blood, if you're West Virginia, if you're Baylor, and I know Baylor has a couple of really good quarterbacks in Brewer and Bohannon, but I'm just throwing it out there. If you're Kansas State, you should be looking in this transfer portal. You should be trying to bang down the door of any of these guys, 4- or 5-star guys that aren't happy in their current situations, that just want to play. And you say, listen, I don't think you promise anybody a job. I think that's silly in college sports to do that. But I think you can say, hey, you come here, you got a really good shot of being the starting quarterback. You can be the man here. And it's a way, because a lot of these schools like Kansas, K-State, whatever, they can't compete with the 4- and 5-star guys at a high school. They all think they're going to be the next national championship winning quarterback at Ohio State or Alabama or Oklahoma. They all think that. And it rarely, if ever, works out that way, because guess what? There's only one starting quarterback job to have. There's only one guy who can have it. Jalen Hurts might have it for a hot minute, then Tua Tagovailoa gets it. At Clemson, Kelly Bryant might have it for a hot minute, then Trevor Lawrence takes it, and around we go. Jake Fromm hasn't given it up, but he kind of took it away from Jacob Eason. So this conversation is ongoing for all of these guys, all these top high school quarterbacks. And I get it. Coming out of high school, you got the dream. You want to go to the blue blood. You think that you can upend and take the job from somebody. You all think you can basically Trevor Lawrence or Jake Fromm the starter, or Tua Tagovailoa the starter. But a lot of these guys can't. It's a numbers game. Most of them won't. Most of them want to play. And guess what? You can be on TV every Saturday playing at K-State. This isn't 1952 when you got to go to Notre Dame. You don't have to do it. And it's a great thing for college football, and a great thing if you're a fan of a non-blue blood. It's a great thing for you as well. So don't forget it. Don't overlook it. And appreciate it, and try to make sure your head coach is getting in that transfer portal. Pete Mundo, Heartland College Sports Weekly, part of HeartlandCollegeSports.com. Coming up, let's talk some hoops. Matthew Postins, he's next on Heartland College Sports Weekly.